Welcome back. You're watching Startup Central with me, Nayantara Rai. The next startup we are featuring is in the fintech space, to be precise, in digital lending to SMEs. The reason we're getting them is because very recently they've got a new check, and it's a check from Sanjay and Falguni Nayar, their family office. Sanjay Nayar, the big boss of KKR India, Falguni herself, an ace investment banker, and now the founder of Nykaa. So what has FlexiLoans, the startup that we're talking about, done right to impress Sanjay and Falguni Nayar? Well, let's reach out to the founder to figure out just that. Manish Lunia joining us right here on this edition of Startup Central. Thanks a lot, Manish. So what did you do right to get Sanjay Nayar and Falguni Nayar to invest?
Yes, thanks, Nayantara, for having us. I think Sanjay has invested in our company about 4 years ago. He was the part of the angel group that invested in our seed round that happened about 4 years ago. And now the Nayar Family Trust, led by Sanjay and Falguni Nayar, invested in a combination of debt and equity about 150 crores.
I believe it's a 500 crore rupee fundraise. Who else has invested?
Yeah, so basically this is debt and equity combined, Nayantara. So on a combination, the round actually has both equity and debt lines that is combined, which includes our co-lending lines with players like Fullerton and Muthoot that are partners with us.
For FlexiLoans at a time when digital had to be adopted faster, we saw all of that being accelerated. How was the year for you?
So that's a wonderful point. I think that 2020 started very optimistic because we were just coming out of the shackles of the ILFS crisis and debt becoming very unviable, not coming up and so on. And Jan, Feb were very good months. And then COVID happened. So I think all of us had to change our strategy substantially in 2020. But this has given us substantial learning as well. I think we've moved more to our supply chain financing vertical and have progressed substantially well. Since I think June, July, since we also have a lot of e-commerce merchants selling on platforms, I think that growth started very well. And as we ended the year 2020, I think we were back to where we started 2020 at. So that was a great thing, from actually doing no disbursements virtually in the month of April and May, worrying about what will happen to moratorium and restructuring, etc. I think 2020 ended well.
Now, the RBI has also been very concerned by loan recovery. We're in the business of lending to SMEs. RBI has come out with a working paper also on this issue. What's your stance?
So look at this. I think RBI and the regulator has been, and overall, I think the India stack rails, which is there. India has been very progressive in terms of supporting the fintech penetration. I think we are not overly worried. The recent issues that are there in terms of few non-regulated entities actually lending, that's where I think RBI is seeking some information. Every other lender in the country is giving that information to RBI. But I believe that this is a problem of non-regulated entities. Entities like us have the support of RBI, and I think we are actually aiding the actual lending to the hinterlands of the country. So the underserved and the unserved are actually being served by us and fintechs.
Earlier, I'm going to ask you again, what did FlexiLoans do right to get a new check from Sanjay Nayar and Falguni Nayar?
So I think, as I said, what we are doing is over the last 3 years, we have lent about 30,000 loans in about 1,400 locations in the country, and all digitally. This is our own origination, which is now yielding us about 200,000 people applying to us monthly through our digital mediums, the MSMEs. Secondly, we have a very robust embedded finance with entities like the e-commerce platforms, the payment providers like M-Swipe and so on. So that's second channel that is there. So the organic channel itself is about 50%. We are the second largest website visited in the fintech space, MSME space in the country today. And then there's a huge platform of about 50 plus partners whose ecosystem of about 2 million sellers whenever they at the point of entry of transaction, they can actually borrow funds from FlexiLoans. So I think both veterans have actually seen the kind of growth that we've done, the kind of technology and data science models that we've built, and obviously digital is the future. So I think that's what I believe they liked.
And what is the plan to withstand competition? You've got all the biggies of the biggies entering this space, whether it's an Amazon, Paytm, PhonePe, Flipkart.
So Narendra, the names that you mentioned, I think 85% of Indian e-commerce players are partners with us, right? And this for the last 4 years. So we embed into the ecosystem players whenever the sellers, the MSMEs want a loan. And they found us able partners to say, hey, why create our own NBFC and a regulated setup when we can actually partner with players like us? So this is a collaboration time. And this is a wave that's been there for the last 3 years. And I think we are so deeply embedded with some of these platforms that I think these platforms don't really feel the need to compete with us. That's my personal guess. Again, we are specialists in terms of getting data, not only from e-commerce platforms or payment providers. We know how to read thin files across India, right? The amount of data that is coming and being stored now with us in terms of the customers has never happened in the country, right? So I think partnering with players like us is what I believe, and collaborating with players like us is what most players are thinking about. And that's what I hear in the market.
On what basis are you saying that you have better data than Amazon and Paytm?
So think of this: when I lend to an Amazon seller, I have data with that I get about the seller transactions, how much does he sell, etc., via his bank statements, via his partner records that he may be ready to share on what he sells on Amazon. But beyond that, I have bureau data, I have data on his demographics. I know that a guy who sells on Amazon might also sell 50% of that on Flipkart and 25% of that on Paytm and maybe on Meesho as well. And when I can actually give him a much holistic and a better credit limit than what I would do individually, what I would lend only on Amazon credits, etc. Right? So a lot of demographic information, a lot of bureau information of how he's behaved in the past, and a lot of transactional information that is pre-lending and post-lending helps us do much better than probably these entities can do.
And is that your model? Sellers on e-commerce platforms, is that who you target, and is that why you have better data as you're convinced?
So as I said, about 50% of our business comes from platform partners like e-commerce platform partners, the payment service providers, the POS terminal providers, people who have supply chains, invoice financing kind of requirements. So large players like Nykaa, we would probably fund the sellers of Nykaa who today take a 30-day credit from Nykaa, but want money instantly, right? So these are ecosystem partners where we do 50% of our business. The balance 50% comes organically through our digital acquisitions.
Okay, final question. It's a large fundraise, 500 crores. What do you plan to do with all the proceeds?
I think we are a lending entity, Nayantara. So about 80% of this funds will all go towards actually lending on to the customers. And some part, about 15-20%, will go into obviously enhancing our capabilities in terms of technology.
Well, here's wishing you all the very best, Manish. Thanks a lot for joining us today on Startup Central. Well, with that, we're going to take a short commercial break, but stay tuned. A lot more coming up on the other side. Remember, Google in Australia at it when it comes to royalty that must be paid to Aussie newspapers, Australian newspapers and media houses. It's a conversation we're going to be having on the other side with an expert from Silicon Valley, and we're also on standby for the government's press conference on COVID-19. Stay tuned.